Good morning to Inside Texas Football, powered by InsideTexas.com. We appreciate you being here on this Monday morning. I'm with Eric and Coach, and we have had, for those of you playing at home, there's a lot of really good football stuff going on. We've got the playoffs starting on Friday night with the in-state rivalry, the powerful in-state rivalry that is the Indiana Hoosiers versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And we've got a transfer portal going on. In addition to that, next year's rosters are decreased. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening right now. And I would, for those of you that haven't been following us on InsideTexas.com, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, please join us at InsideTexas.com. There's been a lot of information. If you want this information as quick as possible, please go to InsideTexas.com. But we are here to give you all the answers that you may need. And I'm going to start with you, Coach, because we've had 3 players sign this weekend from the transfer portal and filling some needs, which is nice. And I'd love to hear from both of you on this, but let's start with our most recent addition at defensive tackle. Is that Brevard? How are we pronouncing his last name?
I want to say Brevard, or I hope so, not Brevard.
Where are you on that, Coach? Or where are you on that, Eric?
I would bet it is Brevard, no?
No, it could be, but man,
maybe we should have discussed that in the 3 minutes when we were on before the show.
Well, yeah, but we had more fun things to talk about. Yeah. So we can this is the type of high-powered information that you're going to be getting during this presentation today. All right. Tell us about Cole, Coach.
Man, look, watching this film, I love this kid. Like, for a big guy, he can run. He has a quick first step. I mean, he really gets out there. You go back and watch his game versus Ohio State. He was one of the few bright spots, right? Really disruptive, getting to the quarterback, stuffing the run. He plays down the line of scrimmage really well, chases the ball like a kid that gives all out effort. And if you saw anything from this season from Texas, the defense line, all the guys they brought in, they play with consistent effort, hustle, and this guy fits that mold, man. He really gets out of it. But he also can two-gap and hold his gap versus double team. So, man, this is like a great pickup, right? This guy does it all, and I'm really excited about him.
So, Eric, obviously, I was with you last year during the spring game, and you were working the phones pretty hard because D-tackle was the moment we got Norton. That was the moment we got a lot of those players that were later additions. One of the things that you have talked about is the fact that obviously some really good players are playing in the playoffs right now. And there may be some of those players that may look to be on another team next year. With what I alluded to earlier, we've got a reduced roster coming in. How picky obviously Texas is going to be picky, but do they need to wait a little bit for this?
Yeah. I think patient is the right word, not picky so much. They've got a plan. Of course, they've got a plan. Getting Brevard, and we're gonna have to figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
Was part of the plan. I think that guy sets a perfect floor for the room. I'm with Coach. I like him. He can get off blocks, whereas Norton would take on blocks and hold his point of attack. I think Brevard can actually get off blocks. He can stack and shed pretty well. Uses pretty good arm length. That's a good pickup. That's an ideal D tackle number 2 for Texas. They've got Lee Hunter coming in tomorrow, I believe, today or tomorrow from UCF. That would be a guy that was likely be a starter. I would say without a doubt he'd be a starter. And then they're still looking elsewhere as well. But yeah, there a number of targets that Texas has heard through the grapevine will enter the portal, are still in the playoffs, or have yet to enter the portal. Maybe they'll play their bowl game or whatever. Texas always has a plan when it comes to the portal. That's one of the fun things to do, is to try to put all the puzzle pieces together and see what they've got going on. But it's definitely a fun one to track. But it's going to be a very good portal window. And that was actually a really good start. That's a better start than I think I've seen them have in the past. They're just addressing a number of needs that lifted the floor. They lifted the floor for the 2025 season in the last week.
Is there anything that you would attribute that to that's different this time, or is it just our targets are interested in playing for Texas?
Well, it's a little bit of that. Texas is in demand. One thing I mentioned, that the proliferation of agents makes it almost easier to recruit. It's a little bit tougher to negotiate with them, of course, because they're always after leverage. Agents always want leverage, but it's easier to get them in contact. Like Texas is getting people has people reaching out to them. A lot of times, Texas is not the party to initiate contact, so
right.
That helps out quite a bit. But they've got a lot of needs. They have a lot of needs this cycle, so they're not going to be as picky. But then you get a guy like Brad Spence. I mean, geez, man, that's a guy that you would normally fight tooth and nail for, and they got him in the first couple of days. And then, an all-conference punter, with punter being a need. They just had a couple of perfect candidates to match their needs. But that's going to happen. The more needs you have, the more likely you will have candidates to meet those needs. But really perfect fits to start. I think it's foreshadowing for how the rest of the portal window is going to go. That doesn't mean they're going to hit on all of them. Texas is not going to break the bank with portal like some schools will. Ole Miss obviously does not use all their capital. I think I think Ole Miss should do a much better job of striking a balance between high school recruiting and the portal. They seem to be more heavy towards the portal. That's fine. They can, they'll probably be on the outside looking in again. But that'll cost you some guys in the portal when schools go for broke in the portal. Texas is going to have a more balanced approach, and they're not going to overspend, but they'll win their share.
This weekend, the second of 3 signees for the University of Texas is linebacker from Arkansas, Brad Spence, which is someone Eric obviously just alluded to. A good get, to use the proper nomenclature here. Tell us a little bit about Brad.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry. Look, when I first saw his film, first play that stood out to me, he attacked downhill and ran right into Kelvin Banks. I said, okay, I like this kind of linebacker, right? I don't care who the guy is. I'm running right through him. He ran through, got off the block, and had a sack on Quinn, right? He had a good game versus Texas. I'm sure the coaches remember that. I'm not saying anybody after the game whispered in his ear, hey, man, if you hit the portal, but I'm just saying, he had a great game versus Texas, but he's a no-nonsense, type of linebacker. He's coming downhill. He's striking, hitting anything that moves, man. This is a great get. He can play special teams, whatever you ask him to do, right? Originally from Texas, from Houston Klein Forest. So sorry about that. I missed it. You got the wrong school. Y'all don't jump on me too bad, but he's a great pickup, man. I love this kid. Really physical. Just kind of fits the mold of what Coach Nansen has built in that room, that kind of culture. They just attack and get after it, and he fits that.
Yeah, he's a full-grown man. I knew him fairly well. I knew his game. Didn't know him all that well because he was a no-nonsense recruit. He didn't like to do a lot of interviews or any of that, which I always appreciate that. But he's a downhill player. Played edge. Was a bit of a tweener in high school as far as projection. Would he play outside linebacker, edge, or would he be an inside linebacker? So now we have another example of the benefit of the portal. When you're the apex predator that Texas is, you can go develop your off-ball skills at Arkansas for a couple of years, and then arrive in Austin when you're ready to hit your stride. So, there's going to be a blitz package out there if Trey Moore comes back. You have Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Brad Spence, and Anthony Hill. And I'm not sure how you
it's so ridiculous.
How you protect the quarterback under those circumstances.
With our current scheme, and I know you just alluded to this, Eric, but where do you see him lining up? Downs 1, 2, 3 with Ant Hill.
Well, I think he's gonna have to compete with Leon Lafau. I think as an off-ball linebacker, he's similar to David Benda. I don't know if he reads the run as well as Benda yet. It took Benda a long time to get to where he did. Benda was Benda a 6th-year guy, right? I think Benda was a 6th-year guy, not even a 5th-year guy. So he had the benefit of a lot of experience. But I think Spence is sort of similar like that. He's a downhill guy, seek and destroy guy. But I think he's athletic enough to play in reverse as well. This is him. It's still a learning curve with him. That's always the delicate balance when you see a tantalizing prospect that plays edge in high school. We saw it with Malik Jefferson. We saw it with Jeffrey McCullough. How long does it take them to learn the off-ball stuff? Well, like I said, you just had the balance, the benefit of Arkansas doing the development for Texas. Now he's getting ready to come in, hit his stride. He got to Anthony Smith, Leon Lafau, Anthony Hill. Elijah Barnes is going to have something to say about early playing time. I still think they might go with one more guy in the portal. But it's funny. Somebody dug up an old comment I had on Brad Spence, and I said, I think this guy would be a good backup plan if they missed on Darian Gillette. And I said, I think he actually has a brighter upside off-ball linebacker than Gillette. So even back then, I thought that he would have an easier transition than Gillette. It'd be interesting if they just lost Gillette and replaced him with Spence. Kind of crazy.
It's like I said, been a great weekend, and you mentioned this earlier, but we've got a well-timed AR, really well-timed, excellent. So we've got a super chat here from AR. Thank you for that. His super chat is Brad Spence, Ant Hill, C. Sims, and Trey Moore on 3rd and long. Bruh. I mean, to be fair, it is an embarrassment of riches not knowing. Honestly, you could send any one of them and it would be an absolutely dangerous situation for any offensive line to try to sort out who to block. But
definitely,
what do you, that package just needs another cornerback.
Yeah,
you got Malik on one side, another cornerback, and they're not going to have enough time to get rid of the ball. You got, Gilbo's going to have somebody locked up underneath. You got Muhammad's going to lock up outside. Safeties will be good in coverage, assuming Taft comes back, and then you got, Kobe Black. Who's that other corner is going to be something to watch. Could be Kobe Black, could be a guy to be named later. Who knows?
Yeah.
And our final signee this weekend was a fun name to say, and that was Jack Baumeister. So Jack is bringing some punting skills into this, and one of the things that you alluded to, Eric, was the fact that leg strength is not the issue with our current special teams. It's been placement, and that's really the hope that Baumeister will bring in here is a little bit more accuracy in his kicking.
Yeah, what I report is a little counterintuitive because we haven't really seen a lot of leg strength from her, but they want him to kill the ball short because they don't feel like they have the guys to track the punt returner like they did last year with Keaton Crawford and Keelan Robinson. They don't have the gunners. But Kern is not showing to have the skill to punt directionally or not having the placement. So I think the big deal with Baumeister is it's going to set up well. Hopefully they have the gunners for him to just kill it deep every time. Warren Roberson is coming on. They've got a number of athletes that could probably profile to being able to finally get back to playing their brand of football on special teams. But this guy's proven, experienced. Texas has some holes in the armor on this team. One of them is special teams. They haven't created enough margin for error. This is not a complete football team. It's a defensive dominated football team. They need to get in order to win a national championship. You got to be pretty damn complete. Not to say Texas can't win it, put it all together and win it down the stretch, but you want to be more complete. Special teams is going to be more complete next year than were this year. Defense is going to be good again. Now we need the main questions for me about next year are going to be offense.
And I'm curious if you have any insight on this, Eric, because obviously there are players that are currently on the roster that are going to hit the transfer portal because of the playoffs and not or because of playing opportunity, but also every team in the country has to cut their roster next year. And I'm curious.
What do you mean cut the roster?
Don't they have to go down to 105 next year?
No, they get to go up to 105. They're at 85 right now.
Yeah.
Oh, so but that's a cap, right? They can't have walk-on players.
Right, but there's going to be scholarship players, so you're going to have more value. So you actually increase not to do that on walk-on players, but there's going to be so much more game theory to figure out about how all that's going to be managed. But no, it's going to be you're going to have more playable players. They'll change the way they take a lot of guys. They'll take more projects. They'll take more of every type of player. But no, they'll have a more built-out roster once they go to 105. You won't have to worry about numbers.
Do you see, just with Texas's philosophy up to this point, that those build-outs will be coming primarily from the high school game, or do you see, because up to this point Texas really hasn't needed to take a quote developmental player in the portal. If they're coming to Texas from the portal, they're easily in the 2 deep. So do you see that trend continuing, or do you see them maybe taking a few more? Well,
when you have a more expansive roster, you can take more risks. So you can take a guy that you might have missed out on the last second that hasn't done anything. They don't really take guys that are unproven out of the portal, And a lot of these guys have fan recognition from the recruiting days, but they haven't done anything yet. Texas doesn't really have interest in those players, but that could change now that you have more room on the roster. Maybe you lose a guy to LSU at the last minute. And you had a good recruitment. You had a good experience with him. He's a talented kid. He doesn't like it there. Maybe he wants to come home. He's homesick. They'd be more inclined to take a guy that didn't have experience. He hadn't proved it yet, just because they have more margin for error.
So, Coach, you mentioned, and I know you both did, that we do have some high-profile players coming in early in the week, either today or tomorrow. Can you just let us know? Obviously, we talked about Eric Singleton, the wide receiver, probably the most sought after player in the current crop of players, but when and what are our expectations for their arrival?
Singleton's visit today, and so we'll see how that visit goes. But look, he's number one in the portal for a reason, right? He's a special electric athlete receiver, man. He gets it done in multiple ways. And so I think it fits the mold of what we've seen the past few years, from Xavier Worthy to, Bond, like speedy guys who can catch, and you can use them in all sorts of ways. And so I think he'd probably be special in the return game as well. So, yeah, he visits today, and so we'll see how that visit goes. I can't wait to get a report back and see how it went, though.
I think, is it today or is it tomorrow? Because I know he's leaving Miami today. I don't know if he's going straight to Austin or if he's going yeah, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow. We need to clarify that. But he's got better ball skills than Worthy. That guy climbs the ladder and goes up and gets it. Yeah, he's an awesome player. Now, I don't know. Like we talked about earlier in the show, we know Ole Miss puts a huge priority on portal. And if you look at portal and high school recruiting all together, Texas already got Jamie French, Texas already got Khalid Glock and Dalen McCutcheon. So that has to factor into your math. It's about the whole roster. You have to combine what they do in the portal with high school. So now Ole Miss did go get Caleb Cunningham, 5-star from Mississippi that they flipped from Alabama. That wasn't cheap for sure. But now I think they do have a little bit more capital for wide receiver than Texas does. And they'll be willing to spend, but we'll see. Texas can be quite persuasive when it wants to.
And it's remind me the name of the defensive tackle that's coming in from or the
Lee Hunter. Lee Hunter from UCF.
Yeah.
And this is again, how many do you think, Eric? Are we thinking 2 to 3 more, or at least 1 or 2 more defensive tackles? Or are we taking up to 3?
3. They'll take 3 at minimum.
Minimum.
I think they could go to 4. Justin thinks it's going to be 3. If they could get a 4th one, maybe that's when you would take a guy that's a multi-year developmental guy.
Right.
But yeah, Brevard's got 1 more year. If they get Lee Hunter will be off to the NFL after that. Another guy I've heard will only have 1 more year. Well, I don't know if he'd have 1 more year. He'd probably only play 1 more year if that guy goes in the portal. So that you might want to look at a multi-year guy that could be somebody that can help bridge the misses in the 2023 and the 2024 class.
What was the feedback, if we've heard any so far, from the tight end from Purdue?
Great visit. Hung out with Gunnar Helm. Hung out with Arch. Stayed the night. Went out to dinner with the fellas. I think I don't have a good read for that kid. The other schools he's looking at are up north. He's from up north.
Yeah.
Does he have any biases? You looked really uncomfortable being in Austin a couple of days during that spring game. The heat was getting to you. You were flush. You see that type of guy.
Yeah. It's all about hydration. But yes, I thank you. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So no, but I don't know how comfortable he felt that way. Obviously, the scheme appeals to him. He's a fantastic receiver. He would be kind of a combination of, to me, Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders. He's a stud. But he's got Michigan coming after him. I think Louisville's making a run at him. Heard Ohio State mentioned. I've even heard Oregon mentioned. Though I don't think he has anything set up. So Texas is going to have to win it. He's talented. I don't know. I honestly don't know how bad they need a tight end, because I believe in Jordan Washington quite a bit. But man, this guy in Jordan Washington could be special. And then you got Nick Townsend coming in. But yeah, Claire's a stud. So I don't, the better they are, the harder they are to get.
It's I think one of the things you have to consider is, especially with Sark's offense, he really, I think, maximizes that position. And I'm wondering what you would see in a 12 personnel with 2 tight ends that are just so dangerous like that in that quick passing game. But it's it's going to be a really interesting week. We want to hear a little bit about some of the team news and preparation as we're getting into this game week. But before we do, I would love to hear from our sponsor for today.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512, or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
I kind of told a little bit of a lie before we move on to prep for this week. This is a little personal. I don't need to get into what you guys are into, but in my house, occasionally Love Island will come on. Occasionally Real Housewives will come on. And this is because people enjoy watching train wrecks. And when it's at Inside Texas, our train wreck is the University of Oklahoma. So one of the questions that was brought up was John Johnson brings up, can anyone comment on why OU's class is so small when it seemed to be obvious that their portal exodus was going to be significant? Or do we expect it to round out into the mid-20s in player count? I mean, unfortunately, our resident OU technician Ian Boyd can't be here to comment on this, but I'm curious if you guys are hearing anything, especially on the recruiting trail, about the absolute hot mess that is going on in Norman right now.
Well, a lot of times high school recruits can sense the death is in the air, and they're not quick to jump into that class. Michael Fasusi doesn't have this power, but a lot of recruits do. I sensed it. Mac Brown. It hurt Mac Brown. Mac Brown's class in 2014 had he remained coach was going to be terrible. Kevin Sumlin's class, the recruiting, the shine was way off of him. Recruits are just sometimes the first to notice, and I think they're going to try to save it through the portal again, and it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. They still don't really have a quarterback. It's come on, man. This is third year Charlie Strong all over again. When they had to, go get desperately reach out for a new offensive coordinator. And I think recruits are hip to that, and they've got a lot better options. NIL has made recruiting more national rather than regional. They're just in trouble.
Man. Everything Eric said, kids take notice, parents take notice too. Like, do you want to send your child there? Like the ship is sinking, quite a bit. Don't seem like they have a hold on the program and direction they're actually even going, right? And so even the portal kids, right? You in the transfer portal, they're not jumping in to go visit Oklahoma, right? So the writing's on the wall, like Eric said. It's Charlie Strong all over. I hate to see it, but I mean, I hated to see it for us, but glad that they got it now. It's their turn to kind of go through the downward spiral.
I have the same sympathy for them that they had for Texas fans.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not like we haven't been down this hole.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Eric, like just in terms of body language, the pure disdain that you were exhibiting when I mentioned Real Housewives and Love Island was palpable. I felt it through the screen. So
yeah, I was laid up in bed this weekend, and I got turned on to the show The Last Kingdom, and it's absolutely sensational. And I was just thinking how different that is from what you watch.
It's very true. It's very true. So as we move into prep for Clemson, I'd be curious to hear this, Coach. Like, what's the vibe check amongst the high school kids, the recruits, the people that we've been going after? No, they have to be excited that Texas is in this position.
Especially the ones that's committed to Texas, right? They get to see their team in the playoffs compete and go win a national championship. It gives Texas some buzz, right? Because all eyes are focused on only 12 teams, right? So it gives Texas even more visibility to kids so they can see how they perform on a big stage versus so-called best teams of the college football. So I think it's going to speak wonders to a lot of recruits and a lot of kids, but it really speaks to the commits who are committed because they're like, we made the right choice. We chose the team that upward trend, has a chance to win a national championship, and they see the growth. And they also see opportunity. Like, I can come in and be a part of this team next year and try to continue this trend and go chase another if we go win it all. So it's a good thing overall. You always want buzz, man. You always want to be the team. You always want to be the team that's seen, get national coverage. It's always good.
Yeah.
Because you could be playing in a guaranteed rate bowl and nobody will watch.
Well, this is what we talked about last week is we're now in a position where meaningful football is happening after the end of the season. Whereas before kids would maybe sit out to prep for the draft or they knew that they were going somewhere else. So you wouldn't get a full team. Now it was great for development. You got to give the other kids an opportunity to get some practice in, but it was certainly a challenge. And now we have this. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Scott in Texas brings up a fun thing, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Eric, because for those of you unaware, FSU's coach Mike Norvell has decided to get into the holiday spirit and donate. This is the word I'm reading. Donate $1.5 million of his salary to athletics, presumably to go into the NIL fund and to help him get more players. I would love to hear your thoughts on his generosity, Eric.
Let me see. FSU's broke. This is basically an investment in himself to hopefully not get fired. But, even then they owe him, I think they owe him 55 million, 60 million, something like that.
Right.
I don't know how far 1.5 million goes. Is this just a one-time thing? Is it every year? He makes like 10 million, I think.
Yep.
This is basically, sometimes you got to do that. You got to invest in your company, and you'll take a reduced rate to do so. I think he's trying to save himself. But FSU's had problems. I've got people in the area that told me before the season that they're going to have a terrible season. They're broke, and they didn't believe in Norvell, and here they are. So if I'm him, I wouldn't be inclined probably to bet on myself within the FSU infrastructure, because you do need support, and I'm not sure he has that. But yeah, I don't know. What did Gundy come up to? Didn't Oklahoma State try to do the same thing with redoing his contract?
Yeah, so he is operating under a reduced contract, and presumably the idea being that the money that the athletic department is saving will be able to go to NIL and such. Now, bear in mind, Paterno at Penn State has donated tens of millions of dollars over the course of his very, very long career to the university and the athletic department. So this is not unheard of. One of the questions that, and if I want to go back to this really quickly, that Scott is asking is whether this is voluntary or involuntary. And I think really that's the crux of the question, specifically with Norvell.
Yeah. I mean, he probably got something. It's probably like it's probably a middle ground of a restructuring. Instead of actually just having to redo the contract, they'll say, "Why don't you put some back in and just kind of find common ground there." But I don't know. I understand it from a business standpoint. Business owners do it all the damn time, but it's interesting in this climate. But yeah, FSU's never really had the great donor base that a lot of these schools have. I think Arkansas probably even has a better donor base than FSU. But yeah, that's just where we're at. I got another question here that's kind of ties into that.
This is from our friend Splendid Daddy. Thank you so much for your super chat. Splendid Daddy, formerly known as Sugar Daddy, comments, didn't expect this many programs to struggle with NIL. Any thoughts on the current landscape, Big E? Now, I want to amend this a little bit because I think you've done a really good job reporting on this up to this point, Eric. Just what differentiates the Texas system, machine, if you want to call it that, versus other programs? Because it seems, as Splendid Daddy is pointing out, Texas has done very well in this regard, and it's been a major contributing factor to the turnaround at Texas.
Yeah, it's just volume. Texas has more rich people than anybody else. You can have, the richest guy in Omaha is richer than the richest guy in New York. But Omaha just has that one or two guys. Warren Buffett in New York City's chock full of billionaires.
Right.
Texas is New York City. Some of these other schools are Omaha, Nebraska. So that's really a differentiator. But it's unsustainable because there's really no return on it for these donors. And if you don't have enough donors to restock supplies, you're going to be in trouble. It's kind of a war of attrition. Texas is better positioned than pretty much any other school. This is the second this became legal in 2021. It's exactly what I was writing about. Texas will be the team to beat in the next decade, just because of the support that they have. And Texas is still not fully leveraged. That's the crazy thing. There's still a lot of donors that you kind of have to get the donors going to their strengths, right? This guy's willing to donate to NIL. Let's get him donated to NIL. This guy's willing to donate, but he's iffy. He needs to donate towards facilities. I think Texas is still kind of figuring that whole thing. So you're still getting the most out of everybody. But Texas just has more generous donors that are well-heeled than pretty much any other school. And then you've got the Oregons. Phil Knight could be your Warren Buffett in that analogy.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State had that guy, but he died. T. Boone Pickens. And then some other schools, Arkansas has the Walmart people. I don't know how involved they are. Texas, I really don't hear Michael Dell's name. Maybe they should. I think Texas should definitely be doing stuff with Elon Musk just to do it, and then get him to a game. Get that being his pet project for a year or two. You see Michigan having Larry Ellison. That's kind of that's their Elon Musk, and they've got sort of the Texas ecosystem. Michigan has a lot of well-heeled boosters, but it's a war of attrition.
As someone that has lived his entire life with ADHD, I greatly appreciate the amount of hyper focus that Elon puts into whatever he's into.
He'll discard you, but you'll be much better after he discards you.
Oh yeah, it's totally a rental situation. But I mean, the idea of just showing him something shiny and having him contribute to that would be fantastic. That's a really fun thought. So let's move on. What you've been talking to the team, Eric? What are the basic? Where are we right now, just from a mental point of view? Are they, and also healing up? This was a big question. You know, obviously with Banks and Ewers having that time to heal up in prep for Clemson is got to be a massive advantage that they were looking forward to.
Yeah, they haven't practiced a whole lot. The first day back was Thursday. They went full pads. I think they had a lighter day Friday, and they were off this weekend. So they're practicing. I think they're practicing right now, actually. So I'll get more details, later in the week. They are obviously everybody's excited about it. This is a brand new thing. Nobody's ever done it. There's never been a playoff game at DKR before. Everybody's excited. It's you've got a lot of storylines. A lot of those guys know the starting quarterback over there. A couple of the other players as well. Makuba was at Clemson for years, and so it's kind of like NIL superiority between NIL indifference. I think Dabo's just now starting to look at NIL as a value add, or trying to get with the times, probably a little too late. And then you got Texas, who has kind of been at the forefront of it, but everybody's excited about the game, man. It's to me, it's a favorable matchup for Texas, but they still got to go out and win the game.
What are you? Where are you on this, Coach? What are you hearing?
Man, look, it's excitement. It's the playoffs. Like, you get an opportunity. Like Stark said, one of the major goals is still in front of us to go get, and that's the national championship, right? So it's almost like new life, right? New season all over again. Fresh breath, fresher air, new air, right? Like, season starts over. Just like reminds me of high school playoffs, right? The excitement. Regular season's over with. You got through that. Now let's go climb the next hurdle, man. This is exciting because you normally you don't see anything like this, especially having a home game. The fans get to come celebrate the team one last time at home. Like, you cannot be there. I know they're gonna be rocking. I know it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be it's on. I can't wait.
How much? Because if you look at the box score analysts and the people that like to look at some of the superficial things, that the storyline that makes the most fun is obviously Cade versus Quinn. And I'm curious how, and we're, for those of you that do stay with us, I really do appreciate it. This week is going to be a lot more in depth in terms of breaking down the game. So we will get into Cade and Quinn, but I'm curious, Coach, as someone that has followed high school football, both of you, for a long time, what do you, if you had to speculate, this has got to mean a lot to Cade. I mean, he's coming back to his hometown and have home folks there. His parents can drive to the game. That's got to be a cool thing. I mean, this has to be a big deal for him.
I'm sure it's huge, right? I'm sure in his mind, everybody's probably said, hey, don't come out and try to do too much and show that, go back to the recruiting battle. Do you take Quinn? Do you take Cade, right? Do you got to come out and show up Quinn in the game, or whatever the case? Like, you want to perform in front of your home crowd, in front of your fans, your family, and everybody else. So it's going to be exciting for him, I'm sure. But then you also got Andrew Makuba, who was, safety for Clemson, start over there. So that's going to be a big storyline, right? How does he face his former teammates, and is he extra geared up and trying to do too much? I don't think he will be, because he's a veteran and, he understands, the game, and, it won't be too big for him. But so many storylines. There's some Texas kids over there with Brian Wesco, right?
Yeah.
Receiver. Like, it's so many storylines that you can talk about in this game. It's going to be fun and exciting, though. But Cade, I'm sure, just around the Austin, the local media and the local, friends and family, it's going to be a lot of talk and chatter.
Eric, this is again a question for both of you. This is a very exciting weekend for me. I think it's pretty badass, to be honest with you. You've got that Friday game and then a full slate on Saturday. Taking the Texas game out of it, what game are you most excited to watch?
I don't know. Notre Dame. I like watching. I mean, that in-state game between Notre Dame and Indiana is kind of. I mean, it just shows you the unpredictability of college football.
Sure.
Nobody would have thought. Indiana, when they won, they had that big year with Tom Allen. Was that the COVID year? And everybody thought Tom Allen was the next big thing. and then they cratered again because they're Indiana football. That's what they do. Now they're back with Cignetti and back to winning. And then you got Indiana, the Domers. I don't know. I think that's going to be fun to see a playoff game in South Bend. I've been to South Bend. It's like a movie set. I think that's just going to be it's a magical night.
Yeah, that was a very cool one. I have to say that that one is my favorite. That one's on Friday. The night game would be my second, probably, which is Ohio State and Tennessee. I think that's a game where styles make fights, as Paul likes to say. I'm curious to see how that one breaks down. What are your thoughts on that, Coach?
Look, the game I want to watch Tennessee, Ohio State, just because I think it's a bigger matchup, two bigger logos, big teams. Then winner of that gets Oregon, but and good luck to Oregon. I'm curious to see. Not similar styles as far as offense, but they both can.
Tennessee Ohio State has the biggest portal implications. That's kind of what I want to see. Either of those teams could lose a player or two. I'm curious to see who loses them and if they can keep their guys out of the portal.
Oh, yikes.
And it's my understanding, right, Eric, that you get, as a player, you get 5 days after your season ends with the portal. Is that right?
That's what it was last year, 5 days after your last game in the postseason. I think it's the same. I need to check on that, actually.
And then if not, they basically would go to spring. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, there has to be some relief for these playoff teams. Texas is probably going to lose a player or two as well after their last game. Cross that bridge when you get there, but hopefully Texas keeps winning. They put that off until late January, mid-January.
This is a question from Drew M. And I'll start with you, Coach. I'm curious your thoughts on this. I have very strong opinions on this, but the question is if Ohio State has a first-round exit, is Ryan Day getting canned? Now, here's why I love this question. I love this question because this easily could have been a University of Texas fan question about a coach that averages 10 wins a year. What are your thoughts on this, Coach?
I want to say his AD already came out and backed him and said he'll be back next year. So first, look, a lot of people probably would call for his job, especially a lot of fans and media, but I don't think he's not going anywhere. The AD already came back and said he backed him. I mean, of course, I've seen AD say that before and then I guess get rid of a coach the next week, but I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, Del Conte said Tom Herman would be his coach in 2021, and Tom Herman made it 2 days into 2021. So technically, Del Conte was correct.
Yeah, Drew puts in here, I only say this because the media wants him out. The media wants a story, is what the media wants. The media wants to be able to fill copy. They want to be able to fill.
You cannot fire a coach if you're at Ohio State without having somebody already lined up, and they clearly don't have anybody lined up because everybody would have known by now. The only surprise in coaching that came about was Lincoln Riley to USC when everybody thought he was getting ready to take LSU. If you have to have somebody lined out, that roster would get poached so damn quick. I just don't see how they would keep that from happening. So, and he doesn't even deserve to be fired.
No, that's the other side.
Let's look at Occam's razors. He doesn't deserve to be fired.
Well, I mean, but your point here is really valid, Eric. Is who do you put in there? I mean, you would have to put in a known commodity in there, I would think.
Bill Belichick has college coaching experience now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I just don't know who you put in there with that roster, with that fan base. Because, we talked about this a little bit with Belichick, right? Belichick is great at a school like UNC where, frankly, nobody's really paying attention. You put him under the microscope of a major college program where you've got donors who think they're, have a better idea about what should be happening. It's a lot different situation. And Ohio State is certainly one of those. And, they're obviously talking about Chip Kelly.
Who do you guys want to win from a standpoint of they play the winner of that game plays Oregon?
Right.
And so therefore they could be, on Texas's draw. Yeah. So who would you, I think Texas matchups poorly against Oregon because I can see Dylan Gabriel just rolling around making plays against a good Texas defense that's doing everything right, except unable to defend for 5 seconds. So who do you guys want to see win that game as far as having a better chance of beating Oregon?
Whew.
I mean, if I had to pick today, I would say Ohio State probably is the more complete team. I don't know that I think the offense
they lost a very close one in Eugene. They were on the road. They played that was last second game in Eugene. So I think I sided with wanting Ohio State to win. And then I would be curious to see if Tennessee lost anybody in the portal.
Yeah, definitely would go Ohio State. The best chance to beat Oregon. Because Tennessee, having a young quarterback, they were to stop the run. Yeah, I don't trust Nico.
That'll be a low scoring. That'll be a low scoring game. Man, you guys are getting me excited about it. So I've got to get to Austin in time to watch that Notre Dame Indiana game, and then I've got to stay sober enough to be able to watch the second game, third game.
So Ryan Nelson, patron saint of the pod, is asking, Eric, when are we going to move the college football playoff schedule closer to the regular season? For those of you who don't know, Eric has a lot of say on this. The semifinals will be played on a Thursday and Friday before the wild card weekend. No other spot has this dumb break, or no other sport has this dumb break. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see it becoming a little bit more? It seems to me that the challenge is the championship games, and that's the reason why it's delayed. What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it, honestly, but I'm allowed to watch as much football as I want. Maybe he's on more of a leash, whereas his wife doesn't allow him to watch as much football, and it's conflicting with him. He doesn't know what to do.
Okay, could be some shots fired, right?
Yeah, I'm just kidding, Ryan. Yeah, I don't. It's kind of like a brand new restaurant. I don't care. You can have all the best ingredients. There's still going to be, have all the best waiters and staff and all that, and you're still going to have these hiccups. They're going to have to work out the kinks on all this. They're going to figure out what's wrong. A lot of things are going to be altered, I think, going forward. Their seating is probably going to be altered. They're going to figure out what works and what doesn't, and tweak it. Now it might take way too long. Fans will probably have it figured out by the end of this year. Fans could probably fix it. But yeah, I think there's going to be some trial and error. But I haven't really looked at it that way. If it's a good football game on, I'm going to watch it no matter what time it is, what day it is.
I think one of the things that was the big inhibiting factor for this playoff system, at least early on, and I'm going back maybe 10 years, was the university presidents worried about the academic side of it. And there's a part of me that thinks that some of that delay, some of it could just be because of this is when the semesters are ending, right? A lot of the semesters are ending early December. This gets the kids out of school. They don't have any academics to worry about for pretty much the whole of the playoffs until they go back in January. I don't know whether that's a factor or not, but it seems to me that could play a role in it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I know we're working with academic people, just at UNLV, like they would be on the road. They would travel with the team, right? They all get into a conference room and do their homework there. Like, so academics, it doesn't fall off. Like, you shouldn't have that worry whatsoever because those guys are in tune. They work with the coaching staff very, very well. Make sure the kids got their assignments in, or they work ahead in case it's going to be on the road, maybe for a week or so, especially like with bowl games, stuff like that. They work with the coaching staff to get that stuff done. So it's not a worry. It's like maybe it used to be.
We're getting a bunch of questions here and commentary in the chat about somebody we played twice this year, and that's University of Georgia quarterback. Beck is presumably, I mean, he's done, right? It's my understanding that he did have surgery. Is that what you guys have heard as well? I'm trying to look that up right now.
Yeah, I knew he needed surgery. It's something, what Tommy John is, what they said the injury was.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I saw. So yeah, he's out. I mean, you could see, that was so violent because he was getting ready to launch that thing.
Yeah. All the torque he was putting into that.
Yeah, it could have been his elbow, shoulder, or even his pec. That was a brutal situation. The timing was just made that really rough. But he'll be out for the playoffs for sure.
So Georgia will be operating with their backup quarterback that they played the second half with in the SEC championship game, who did not do poorly. So it's not. This is obviously a drop off, but it's not maybe the drop off that some folks are expecting. Let me see here. I'm going into you guys' chat, but before we do, let's go ahead and hear from our last sponsor for the day. In case maybe there's a slip and fall, or maybe you're currently driving a big rig and you're listening to the show. Thanks so much for having us.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
All right, guys, this is the time to do this. Some folks are asking these questions, and I think this is probably the most appropriate time to do that. And this is the time to be speculative and get our little bit of a wish list here. So Ryan Davis is asking, if we make the championship game, who would y'all want to match up against? Now, again, you will find that if you follow the Inside Texas at InsideTexas.com, it's a pretty objective group, at least amongst the staff, not necessarily on the board, but certainly amongst the moderators and the staff. So I'm curious if you guys can break yourselves away from the fact that we have not beat Clemson yet. Hypothetically, who would you want to play in a championship game? We'll start with you, Coach.
Easy answer, Boise State.
Okay.
For two reasons. They kept UNLV out the playoffs, and then, we could stop the run, and all they have is the Ashton Genty. I don't think they'll play action with the little 5'8" quarterback would beat Texas. I think that'll be great to see. I think Texas will win that easily. And so, yeah, that's my two reasons. Pick Boise.
You have a personal vendetta. Is
yeah,
that
a little bit.
What this is?
A little bit.
Okay, that's fair. What do you got here, Eric?
I got to go Georgia. I just, I want to see. There's a reason the saying "third time's a charm" came about. I don't know what the etymology of that is, but I might need to look that up. I think I think they need to prove it to themselves. You can't. It's always going to be in the back of my mind. Yeah, they might have won the Natty, but they lost to Georgia twice. Had a chance to play them again, but Georgia fell short to somebody else. I want to see them play Georgia again because I know, or at least I think I know that they're the better team. They weren't the better team on October 19th. They were the better team for much of December. It was at December 2nd. But they didn't get the win. But I think to prove to themselves they're the best team in the country, I think they should have to beat Georgia.
I think this is, I was talking to a friend of mine last night about this, the idea of the draws and how this is again, being the first year people are figuring things out, the fact that certain teams have buys and others don't. Well, but at the end of the day, you just got to win, right? If you want to be a national championship, you just have to win your games. And I think I'm with Eric on this one. I think beating Georgia. Now, again, the thing I love about college football, it is an opinion-driven sport, and if we beat Georgia, we will beat Georgia without Beck, and there's some sort of acting. It's never clean, is it? Like it's never just that easy.
I could totally lean into the other way though. If they beat SMU and they say Texas didn't beat anybody the whole year,
let's try.
I mean, that would be fun. I would lean into that hardcore. That would be a lot of fun.
Are either of you going to the game on Saturday?
I'm sure I'll be there. I haven't got a ticket yet, but I'm sure I'll be there. You got to be in Austin for that.
Oh, absolutely. And for those of you that are curious, the etymology of third time's a charm is believed to be have ancient roots, with the number 3 being associated, obviously, with various religions, successes. But the first known print of this came in the 1830s by poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning, where she mentions the luck of the third adventure is proverbial. So there we go. I just thought everybody might want to know the etymology of this, because Eric is just throwing around terms nobody understands. So we're going to try to get to the core basis.
Hey, there's some guys on their third wife out there that you just brought a big
It's true. It's true. You gotta play the numbers on that one. It's not always sunshiny. All right. Texas wins. Here we go. These are hot takes. Texas wins the SEC title if Beck isn't hurt. Oh, that's an interesting take.
Absolutely.
He threw multiple picks, and they had 50 yards of offense at halftime.
So they were in his head. Texas wins that game without a doubt. It was that little sneaky Dylan Gabriel lookalike that opened up the damn offense for him. That was it. That changed the game.
Yeah, definitely.
So does that mean? So if we're going into someone, and again, we're getting into breakdowns this week, but talking about Cade, obviously he can use his legs, obviously is athletic quarterback. Do you think that presents the same challenges, or were those challenges predicated on the fact that we were caught off, we're on our heels a little bit?
I think you caught off in your heels a little bit. Like, you don't know how athletic a kid is. You never seen him on film, really, right? He comes out there, he's running, he's trying to run through Malik Muhammad. Like, he's giving him energy. He made some plays you wouldn't expect to make, right? He got outside the pocket. You really can't gauge it, right? Because you've never seen him on film and you haven't played against him, or you're familiar with Beck, so you know what he provides or what he can do. So he made some plays, but after that one drive, though, what else really did he do besides the QB sneak where he got his helmet knocked off, right? Other than that, we kind of caught up to him and what his abilities and what he could do. I thought we adjusted well after the first drop he was in.
Yeah.
With this defense, and we've talked about this, Eric, what do you think? What's the minimum amount of points we need to score against Clemson?
Minimum 17.
Okay. All right. I had it at 20, but 17.
I hold them to 14. You know, that's what I expect out of this defense. You have to remember, one of Texas coaches knows Cade Klubnik extremely well. Coach Michael Taft. And so he's gonna have this guy. He knows Klubnik's strengths. They're gonna have a very good feel for Klubnik, I think. But yeah, it's one thing to go in expecting the quarterback to have that elusiveness and to have game plan them and practice them all week. It's another thing when you have a different type of quarterback come in. Trust me, if it's a rude awakening if Quinn Ewers goes out and Arch Manning comes in. You're looking at an entirely different quarterback. You're going to have to defend. You have to emphasize defending different parts of the field. So I think that is – then you're going to have to recalibrate. How soon can you recalibrate is the question. But, yeah, I think going into the game, knowing who Cade Klubnik is a huge advantage for Texas.
Yeah.
I've been told by our producer, who's currently sitting on a beach, that it's important for us to ask you to like and subscribe. So for those of you that are watching on Twitter, which is the vast majority of you, first of all, we really appreciate you being there. So if you are watching on Twitter and you're on one of the many accounts that this is being broadcast to, please just like or follow that person on Twitter. That really does help us. And then if you can, please come over to Inside Texas Football on YouTube and like and subscribe to the channel. It's been a massive year for us. We started this year with about 3,000 followers, and we're up well over 15. And that is purely a product of your support, and we greatly appreciate that. Also, again, without saying, all of this information is coming as fast as it possibly can. We'll be at InsideTexas.com, and we want you to join us there. As we were closing this out, we've got another super chat from Dennis Donaldson, and he says, Eric, have you been to Bar A? Beef rib.
Absolutely. I haven't had the beef rib, but I'm sure it's great. Yeah, their food is phenomenal. My wife wants to go once a week. I feel like I'm cheating on Grant Pinkerton when I do. So if we're going to give Bar A shout out, we got to shout out Grant Pinkerton. But yeah, their food is tremendous. That guy knows what he's doing. I do think he's an Aggie, but I'm not. It's not a surprise that an Aggie knows how to barbecue.
That's fair. I mean, they do study beef products. I think that's a fair.
Judge them. He probably gets the best meat. He probably judges them personally.
Now, do we feel that your consistent patronage to Bar A, is that going to lead you to financial ruin? Are you worried about that? Your kid needs to go to school, doesn't he?
These prices are ridiculous. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's why I stick with Pinkerton. Pinkerton gives me like half off.
That's good. Completely off topic, but kind of on topic. Coach, you're getting barbecue in Dallas. Where are you going?
Hutchins, man. I'm a Hutchins guy. Before, I can't think of a guy on TikTok who came and did a review on it. Now everybody goes, but I've been a Hutchins barbecue guy for a long time. It's really, really good.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So coming in here, this is J Hawk 80. JD Hawk, different, not a rock jock, saying Cade's a great QB, and I love my Westlake guys, but he's going to have a bad day in Austin on Saturday. LOL.
I hope so.
Yeah, he seems like a good dude, but I think they really do have a good understanding of his strengths and weaknesses, and Texas has really, really good edge when they're focused to keep the quarterback in the pocket and not let him get out and be a playmaker. They've had a lot of success this season. So I'm not feeling I've got to go to Hutchinson. Where in Dallas is it?
One in
near Frisco, isn't it?
Yeah, one in McKinney and in Frisco. Yeah,
oh, man, that's basically Oklahoma, man. I'm not going up there.
Jeez, Eric, you sound like there's a guy I went to high school with that was convinced anything north of the Mason-Dixon was Canada. So yeah. I can see you having a similar distaste for anything north of that.
Hey, somebody asked if. No, I think you got a prediction to go to Ole Miss. I'm searching right now. You never know what's going to happen in the portal era. Like he could commit while I'm telling you that he hasn't committed. but I don't think yet that's my default is that it'll be Ole Miss just because of the way that they prioritize NIL. If we're in a rational world and he looked at the quarterbacks of each of his 5 schools, you would say, yeah, I'll probably go catch balls from March Manning and go in the first round. Some people it's a little bit more perplexing question. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out Ole Miss and their first year starting quarterback. But you never know. Texas will get their chance to have him on campus, at least as things sit now, and we'll take it from there.
So, Coach, let's just play this game a little bit. Let's play it out. That Singleton does go to Ole Miss. We bring in no more wide receivers in this transfer portal. Who are your starting 3?
Next season? Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, man, that third guy. Look, if you can convince Matthew Golden to come back, you can go with him. I would love to see that. But maybe you start one of the true freshmen. You still got Parker Livingston on there. You got a lot of people talked about, Parker Livingston behind the scenes, or I guess he's doing well. Like, I trust him. He can play. I liked him for a long time, but you can go any of the trio that's coming. They can play, or you can go Mr. Aaron Butler. Like, I love him. I like this film a lot, but I don't know who your third guy would be.
Bolden can't come back. He's done. Yeah, he's out of there. Yeah, it'll be another portal guy. They don't want to put out their true freshmen. Hell, they don't even feel comfortable with Ryan Wingo at times. And all you got to do is throw slants to him.
That's true.
Yeah. So it'll be another portal guy. They've always got something up their sleeve, guys. They always do. This is why even if I didn't have, if I wasn't privy to information, I could just follow the fact pattern of watching these guys in the portal the last few years. They've always got something up their sleeve. Yeah. And so if it doesn't work out with Eric Singleton, they'll have something else going on. Probably somebody that's not in the portal. Probably something that would be late breaking, like we saw with Adonai Mitchell, like we saw with Isaiah Bond. Texas's plan pretty much sent Saban off to pasture. It was having to save his roster in the last seconds of the portal closing that really ran the dude off, the greatest coach of all time. So they've got a plan. I'm not worried about it. It will not be a true freshman starting. I don't think those true freshmen will come in and probably earn playing time, but they're going to have to earn their stripes. They want experience out on the field, and you get experience gradually until you have experience, and then you start starting.
I think the subtext of that question is it is a deep room, and prior to the portal, prior to NIL, this would be a room we'd be very, very happy with, and I think we still are, obviously. But because you have the opportunity to bring in a potential day one starter, it changes the math, and I think because it changes the math, the fan perception is that it's somehow weaker if we don't get a wide receiver in there. I think we will, obviously. I don't think that's actually in question, but it does speak to the roster management that this coaching staff has been able to execute at, as far as I can tell, one of the highest levels in the country, if not the highest.
Well, another thing to factor, if they get the tight end Claire, they're Sark probably never envisioned a world where Gunnar Helm would be his leading receiver.
Sure.
Claire is the guy that would make more sense as your leading receiver because he can actually route people up and win one-on-ones, whereas Gunnar Helm is more often than not, he's being schemed. But you got DeAndre Moore, he's going to break out next year. You got Ryan Wingo, who's going to break out next year. Wide receiver is going to be perfectly fine. But if you look at the roster, I don't see a clear-cut third starter projected right now. It would have to come from the portal.
Yeah. And with that, just kind of closing things out a little bit, what we just talked about wide receiver, obviously running back is a position of need. Now I'm curious, this was a question that was asked of me, and I'm love to get your thoughts on this. What are the trajectories of Baxter and the healing process? I mean, do we, even if he's available, I mean, he's going to have to get into football strength. Do we see him being available at the beginning of the next season, or is it going to take him a little bit more time than that?
I don't know. Injuries are funny. You never know how a guy's going to recover and heal up mentally as well, right? You got to know, he got to trust himself. Can he make the same cuts? Can he run the same and do all the things he was able to do before? So I'm pretty sure if he's cleared, he'd be good to go. But mentally, where would he be? That would be my biggest thing.
The problem is the staff won't have clarity on Baxter until after the second spring portal window, even. So they just can't leave anything. They don't leave anything to chance. That's the thing. Every year they're bringing in 2 running backs. Even I thought there was one cycle, I was like, do they really need two running backs? Well, apparently they did need 2 running backs.
Yeah, that's true. It's a fair point. Yeah.
So they don't leave anything to chance. And portal allows you to not leave anything to chance if you have it as good as Texas does. And so, every time I think they don't need to do something, they still do it, and they're proven correct. Going after a tight end, I didn't necessarily think they needed to get a tight end. Obviously, they feel like they do, and the one they targeted is obviously one you would take. But yeah, they definitely need a running back. They need a volume running back, a starter running back. I love Trey Wisner, but I think he's better as a complementary role. I think they need to get him back on special teams. We've seen special teams fall off. One of the reasons was he wasn't able to take Keelan Robinson's place like they hoped because he's too valuable as a running back and they had too many injuries. So, you can get a running back and it proves if you're doing the roster right, you can get a running back and it helps improve your special teams. So I mean, a running back is important in this cycle.
We want to thank you. This is a massive week. Obviously, this is the first year of the college football playoffs. Texas is in it. They're hosting Clemson on Saturday, December 21st. This is going to be your place for all the information you need. If you want it as fast as possible, like I said, please join us at InsideTexas.com. We are all the game planning, all of the deep dives, all of that is happening this week. Later tonight at 6 p.m. If you want to come back to this channel, we'll have another live. So if anything happens between now and then, if you've got some questions, you can please join us. Other than that, we are here all week for your information and all the Texas stuff that you need to hear. Thank you so much for being with us.